Good morning and welcome to the Tuesday Morning Blitz. It's the second to last episode of the football season, Cale. Brace yourself. The Super Bowl preview episode. I do believe it's only the second time we've done a full-on Super Bowl preview, so I'm ecstatic to bring this to all of you out there. We will be going over the key storylines going into the Super Bowl. Just talking stakes. We like to talk stakes. We'll go over the key matchups. That's when we get into some of the nerd talk. I anticipate Cale maybe entering a fugue state at some point. That section. Finally, we got props. It's the prop weekend of the year. We're going to talk about what we like, win the folks some money, even though I'm infamously bad at winning money on props throughout our history as content creators. So with all that in mind, Cale, welcome to the program. Let's talk Super Bowl.
Let's talk Super Bowl, Jackson. Let's lock in.
I think it's time. It's time to lock in. You're right. I just totally cut you off. That's good podcasting right there. Cale, I would love to talk about some of the stakes in this Super Bowl. And to be honest, I think it starts with young Patty Mahomes there. Patrick Mahomes, Cale, currently in a 9-way tie for 5th all-time in the 2 Super Bowl club. And that is just among quarterbacks. So you think about some guys that have won 2, both the Manning brothers, even going back a little bit further, Elway. There's some real superstars that have won 2 Super Bowls, but the 3 or more Super Bowl club is ridiculously elite. It is just Troy Aikman with 3 and then Montana, Bradshaw, Brady. So that's the kind of atmosphere we're talking about Pat Mahomes entering if the Chiefs win this Super Bowl. And I'm just going to kind of toss these to you on a scale of how big that one feels to you. What's the Cale Flames meter on Mahomes being in the 3 Super Bowl club?
I think it's massive. It's obviously massive. Like him, like he's keeping pace with Brady in the winning 3 of your first 4 if he wins. At his age, it's a little bit more of a factor where Mahomes is 28 and change. And I feel like Brady was old when he won that 3rd ring, but he wasn't. He was he was a year younger than him, fully. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of how like that pace shakes out. We've talked about it on the pod before. I've never seen Mahomes as a 20-year guy. He's always felt peak of his powers, like catch this bag, walk out healthy, and be a figurehead for a long time, and like have a lot of longevity to his image. But if he can just exist at a peak for a really long time, I think that's super important to him. And I think it's just if you win this real pass under the torch moment to just be solidified already as one of the greats before the age of 30. And, he's winning this one in arguably the most impressive way possible. Like, zero help. Like, when I say zero help, I mean zero help. A full load of defense, the entire playoff run finding new ways to win, whether it's like Buffalo, it's, lightning quick, scoring every drive, high-performing offense. The Ravens game, it's hold the ball slow, methodical. The Dolphins game, it's winning in weather. It's finding new ways to win every single time, and I think that is by far the most impressive part of this whole thing. On the Flames meter, if I'm putting it 1 to 5, this is probably I don't see this as a super high stakes. I weirdly don't see this as a super high stakes Super Bowl, but I think this is one of the biggest storylines going on. It's like a 4.5 Flames for me.
It's interesting that you put it that way because while we may be weary of the matchup, the more I sort of dug into some of the storylines, the more I felt like this maybe was a super high stakes Super Bowl, because everyone that I kept bringing up, I was like, oh, damn, like, I mean, obviously every Super Bowl is legacy, but like if the Lions were in this, for example, it would all just be like, oh my God, what a great story the Lions are in this. How awesome will it be for that fan base if they win one? And that, like, you know, grabs attention. But the Niners are essentially like coming to the end of this great era where, well, not the end because Brock Purdy is still super young, but they've been on the precipice for basically like 2 head coaching tenures, the Harbaugh tenure and now the Shanahan tenure. They've been right there so many times, the 2 Super Bowl losses, but also 3 NFC Championship game losses. This one means a lot to them, to John Lynch as a GM, to Shanahan as a head coach, and that's not even to get into some of the Brock Purdy stuff. So we'll get back to all of that. But yeah, I mean,
I'd like to stay on it actually, because my take right now, unless you were gonna comment on Mahomes' legacy stuff, I think this is I understand what you say. It doesn't feel like that big a matchup because maybe it's just because it lacks the novelty because these teams have been there before. But the 49ers, from our perspective, Jackson, this is a team. I know they've got historic pedigree. This is a team that in the 21st century has not been able to get over the hump. Like, they obviously had a ton of success in Montana, continued success into the Steve Young era. They have, since 97, had 2 distinct eras where they've got the Harbaugh era, where they go to 3 straight conference championships and lose that 1 Super Bowl to the Ravens and lose the other 2 conference championships. And then in the Shanahan era, they lose that Super Bowl to the Chiefs. They have a complete washout of a season due to injuries. Then make 2 more conference championships, lose both of those in varying heartbreaking degrees, and then are in the Super Bowl again. These are 2 legit dynasty-level runs with nothing to show for it. The Niners, for the last, damn near 15 years, have been one of the best teams in football with a healthy break transitioning between, Harbaugh, Jim Tom Sula, Chip Kelly. I remember when Chip Kelly was the 49ers head coach into the Shanahan.
I do, but I don't. I don't remember any of the games they played, but I remember the fact that they hired him and being very surprised.
Having a point differential of negative 171.
There was a bad Niners team that was like 1-11 when they played the Patriots and they scored the first touchdown and then they just ended up losing like 40-7. And I was like, this is the team that was in the Super Bowl like 3 years ago. Does not make sense.
It's also a really funny point differential because they were an okay offense. They just allowed the most points in a season in 49ers history with 480. But yeah, it's just the last 15 years, the last 2 dynasties, the 49ers have not been able to get over this anecdotal hump of just being I was saying this to my dad earlier. How often can you be a top 4 team annually in the NFL and have nothing to show for it? At what point does that become a problem?
Oh, yeah. No, to break it down in numerical terms, and you're right, I missed an NFC Championship game loss. I think the one that I forgot to count, ironically enough, was last year because they just felt like they weren't even in the NFC Championship by the time they had no quarterbacks. 7 Final Four appearances in the last 13 years, and now still nothing to show for it. So if they go 0 for 7, think about how many times the Patriots were in it. I still think the most remarkable part of the Patriots run is the fact they were able to get that far every time and still like have a ridiculously good winning percentage from the Final Four on. So yeah, man, I mean, just to like even break further into some of the Niners stuff of it, you've now got Kyle Shanahan, ghost of Super Bowls past. He was obviously the offensive coordinator in the 28-3 game, and then they also had a 10-point fourth quarter lead the last time they played the Chiefs. So that's certainly going to become a huge narrative if they end up losing this game, especially if the Chiefs end up coming back on them in some way. Is the Niners have been very good in the last 15 years. They've been very good specifically in the Shanahan era, but this is the big one specifically they got to win this time around.
You know what's a crazy stat about not even just the Kyle Shanahan Super Bowl thing, specifically Kyle Shanahan against Steve Spagnuolo. They have, this is from Ben Solak via True Media. In the two matchups, Week 7 of 2022 and Super Bowl 54, EPA per drive. I forget what time frame this is out of. I'll pull up the ringer to clarify it when I'm done. But they have a 70th percentile EPA per drive in Super Bowl 54 and a 91st percentile success rate. Week 7 of 2022, 60th percentile EPA per drive and a 71st percentile success rate. So in both of those games, Spagnuolo hasn't even really been able to contain the 49ers offense that much. Like on a efficiency basis, they are still well above league average, if not elite. It's just he's getting screwed in some other way. Like it's either the Mahomes side of things or it's defensive blunders. But like it's not like it's Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting. It's not your fault. Like it's not your fault.
Yeah. Or it's Brock Purdy. I don't even remember who the receiver was, but that massive overthrow in the fourth quarter of the Super Bowl and just generally being did I say Brock Purdy? I meant Jimmy Garoppolo. I don't know what came out of my mouth. But the point being, adding to your point that it's not his fault. We talk about the other head coach here. We talked about quarterbacks with 3 more Super Bowls. Andy Reid could be just the 5th coach with 3 Super Bowls. Belichick, obviously, with 6. Chuck Noll with 4. Joe Gibbs, and ironically enough, 49ers great Bill Walsh with 3 each. So Andy Reid's starting to get up there. I mean, he's already a Hall of Famer, obviously, but we never really had Andy Reid in like the pantheon, maybe even Mount Rushmore discussion of head coaches. And I think that starts to become a conversation if they get this one done as well.
There's a teeny tiny part of me that thinks Reid walks after this game if he wins. But
I absolutely see that.
Within the last 24 hours, not even stuff I've been privy to. Reid is apparently addressed retirement in his media day. The exact quote: "Am I retiring? Listen, my mom and dad told me this when they were working. They said you'll know when it's time, and I'm ready to go right now. Let's go." That's what they would tell me when I was young. I was an inquisitive kid. So that's the way I look. Somewhere you're going to know when it's time. Today is not the day. And I don't know if it just means today's not the day, like today before the Super Bowl.
Next Tuesday, however.
You came out a little robot-y there, Pete.
Oh, excuse me. I said next Tuesday, however.
Yeah.
Stories change.
And then the Chiefs owner came out and said, like, there's, I haven't gotten any inclination or I haven't sensed from Reid that he's about to retire either. So, we'll see. But I think to give him the option to retire, I think cementing legacy would be big. I also now think with the news about Bieniemy, I think he's going to pull a bit of a Mayo and get his guy back in the building because he loves Eric Bieniemy. He's gone to bat for Eric Bieniemy. He apparently, I was listening to a Ringer thing, that Reid has gone in at league meetings with owners and like personally gone up and being like, what's the deal? Why haven't you hired Eric Bieniemy for a job yet? So he's like really going to bat for this guy. And just the pattern of successorship with truly great coaches. Carroll didn't have anything there, but he trusted the Seahawks front office to kind of continue things going forward. Belichick has left such a big legacy that he when Mayo was about to walk, he said, let's lock him in. And Kraft had successorship language in his deal. So it would be interesting. The note about that is that they get to completely skip the vetting process. They don't have to do Rooney Rule. They don't have to do interviews. They don't have to delay it all. They can immediately announce it. And Reed can just say, like, listen, this is my guy. He's been with us before. We can just lock this in.
No, they wouldn't have to do that for next year. Like he would do.
Well, I'm saying he would come back and then do that.
Okay, so 1 year. 1 year
So
is like
maybe it's
OC again.
Especially if he doesn't win.
Yeah, I don't hate that theory at all. I first of all think Cliff Kingsbury. Really, that's what we're doing now. We're doing the Dan Quinn, Cliff Kingsbury.
I don't hate it. Like, listen, did Cliff Kingsbury hold Kyler Murray back? Yes. Did Cliff Kingsbury make Patrick Mahomes look like a not generational talent? Yes. Is his 1 year at USC associated with the first time in his collegiate career that Caleb Williams has been questioned as a number 1 overall pick? Also, yes. But try it. It didn't work with Eric Bieniemy, but what's more air raid gonna hurt? He can make it work with Caleb. The offense at USC was just one big yakety sax track, but maybe in a professional offense, we'll see.
That is literally the Tobias Funke meme that you have referenced before. Has that worked for other people? No, they somehow delude themselves into thinking it'll work instead of addressing the bigger issues at hand. But it might work for us. Your 2024 Washington Commanders. Well played, sir.
I think the Dan Quinn hire was just the biggest. We got caught at the table. We've got to just walk away with something.
Oh, we thought we had Ben Johnson in our lap. Turns out we did
Ben Johnson. Bobby Slowick walked too. They're both. I'm so pumped for both of them to be in the NFC East next year, and neither of them are coaching for the Washington Commanders. It'll be great.
I see that. Now, I want to talk some Purdy before we get too far gone on the storyline stuff here. Brock Purdy. Everyone knows Mr. Irrelevant. That's the tagline. I don't think we hear the number often enough. Pick 261 because everyone knows Brady was picked number 199. 261. The draft had extra picks, way, way more than it ever had before. 260 other players were drafted before this guy. And I found this little nugget that, it won't rank maybe 5 on your Flames meter. But did you know the Chiefs had 4 7th-rounders last year before Purdy went last in that 7th round? Do you know who those 4 guys were? They were Nazeeh Johnson, cornerback from Marshall, Derek Young, receiver from Lenore-Rhine, Jalen Watson, cornerback from Washington State, and Isaiah Pacheco. 3 maybe misses. Wrong
Watson. I thought Jalen Watson was Justin Watson. I was like, home run.
No.
Nailed that.
No. So if you hit on one of those 4 picks, let it be the right one. Isaiah Pacheco, back-to-back Super Bowl champ. If there's one man to stop the Brock Purdy story from worst to first, as it were, it just might be Pacheco, who was drafted 10 picks before him.
I mean, yeah, I wanted to throw this one out there. We're doing props early. Do you guess Sam Darnold's odds to win MVP?
I saw it somewhere. Wasn't it 25-1 or something? Or 200 to 1. Yeah.
It's 200 to 1. But that's in the same as Chidobe Awuzie, Trent McDuffie, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, other big Niners that aren't Nick Bosa or Fred Warner. It's the majority of the Niners defense, a few of the Chiefs defense, and a few non-Kelsey, Rishi Rice, Pacheco skill position players. The fact that your backup quarterback's that high is crazy. I think this is a big narrative defining moment for Brock Purdy. Even if it doesn't shake the Shanahan assistant allegations, it's still like you beat in some capacity because of your throws. You beat a Steve Spagnuolo defense, the best defense the Chiefs have ever had, and you, no matter what, you went toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes and won.
Yeah. The quarterback conversations are always so ridiculous and so just not grounded in reality. And people forget there was obviously a long period of time where Brady was considered a system quarterback too. And I'm not comparing Purdy to Brady in any sense of the word, but what I will say is it does not matter what hand the quarterback has in winning the Super Bowl. Like, obviously, you want Super Bowl MVP on your resume, go ahead, knock yourself out. But like, the guy has a ring on his finger, the guy has a ring on his finger. And that's what the players actually care about. They don't care about the hypothetical, am I 16th or 12th in Steven Ruiz's quarterback rankings this week? And, sometimes they'll say stuff like that doesn't matter to them, but it really does. I truly don't think this is one of them. Nobody on the Niners is going to be upset about Purdy system talk if they end up winning. And similarly, nobody's going to take solace in Purdy is awesome talk if they lose. Like, it's all purely results based at this point.
I'm pumped for no one's narrative to change. Truly no one's.
Nobody's changing their tune at this point, which is why I've enjoyed kind of my seat in the middle lane of all this as somebody who I feel like has said a lot of really nice things about Brock Purdy on podcasts, but also had to be the voice of reason in text chains with my dad, who basically thinks he's Joe Montana 2.0. So I feel like I'm going to have a nice career set up right in the middle lane for years to come when speaking about young Brock Purdy.
Yeah, we did we worked it against the Ruiz chart last week. I'm so comfortable using him as the wind in my sails of you can win a Super Bowl with an okay quarterback. I'm excited for teams without quarterbacks in the top 10 or like top 10 arguments to start trying to vie for Super Bowls with, massive caches of talent that aren't a quarterback. I want the Seahawks to start making plays for like Mike Evans. Actually, it makes no sense in the defense, but you know what I mean.
And let me say as well that I know that like we just said, it's not like that big of a legacy defining moment for him specifically. Like, people won't change their opinions, but I do think we'll learn a lot about him from this game because of what the Super Bowl is specifically. And I'm not bringing up anything new here, but I think it bears repeating. The Super Bowl environment is so different than any other game. Like, it's not a home game. It's not a road game. It's just the biggest stage. It's a weird atmosphere. It's like a 4.5-hour pregame. You're just overthinking everything for the entire day. And then it's like a 45-minute halftime on top of that. So, like, you'll never have more opportunities to overthink stuff as a player. And if Purdy can just kind of be like the guy that he's been for the last 2 years in spite of that environment change, I think that'll tell us a lot about him.
I think it will too. Not even like he's been pretty calm, cool, collected. I think pressure's a big element because I don't think it's just the fact that he's had some bad weather games, and those are the things that really affect him. But we shall see. Did you have any other big narrative defining things? I thought some cute ones were the McCaffrey Shanahan 2.0 bit.
It's a good one. Didn't have it written down. Good one though.
Ed and Mike, Kyle and Christian. I think that one's just fun because I think it speaks to CMC more as a whole, where maybe I'm, we're biased as people who kind of play fantasy football, but it feels like he has been one of the, if not the best offensive weapons in the league for some time now. Derrick Henry was the only running back who had more rushes than him. No other running back had more yards from scrimmage. I think no one touched the ball more than Christian McCaffrey this year. Just like all-around offensive weapon. It'll be great to see him. We'll be talking a lot about him this show. When we start to break down this game, we start to do some props. But I just think having this kind of super team spearheaded by – not spearheaded, but the fact that Christian McCaffrey is kind of the KD to this Warriors team. I know this team hasn't won a ring, and we've talked about that.
I don't hate that analogy, though.
But him being that extra piece and him being hyper elite, bringing this team to a new level and unlocking more for this group of guys is very exciting. And I would like to see him not just be able to pull it off and help drive this team to a win, but like damn near vie for MVP. Like I see a big game coming for this guy.
Yeah, two things about that. One, you talked about just kind of like the narratives around McCaffrey throughout his career. One of them was that, couldn't trust the guy to stay healthy for a full season, bad teams merchant in Carolina, like all that kind of stuff. And two, the trade where the Niners end up in a bidding war with the Rams, and they end up, people are saying they love the trade for Carolina. They question why the Niners gave up so much for a running back, even if he is the most versatile running back, and he's got the injury concerns. All of that can really be reverse vindicated, if you will. I'm not going to say they're proving anybody wrong, because I don't think anyone doubted that McCaffrey could be this great, especially if he was able to stay healthy. But just all of that has worked out in such a positive way for them so far, but it would be really an extra level of working out for them to validate it with a title. So I definitely see that as a big one. The other one that I had is just kind of Kittle Kelsey talk, because I know they're not on the same stratosphere historically as tight ends, but what made me think of this was Kelsey doing the master class, Kittle's the best tight end in the league right now. We have so much respect for those guys. Same thing as Spagnuolo saying, I see a star when I watch Brock Purdy on tape. And I thought about it, and I was like, people talk a lot about the stylistic differences between Kelsey and Gronk. Just historically, Gronk being just this do-it-all Swiss Army knife as a tight end, run through your face, best blocker in the game, great receiver, could do it all. Kelsey, just big wide receiver, best route runner, most shifty, elusive, but probably better hands than Gronk, although Gronk had great hands. Kittle's kind of more in the Gronk category. And we have this, Kelsey Gronk debate as the two tight ends of this era. Kelsey can get pretty close to Gronk. Some people probably already have Kelsey ahead of Gronk, especially Chiefs fans. And if you just go by raw numbers, all the stats will say, just from a receiving standpoint, Kelsey's had the better career. So 3 rings to Gronk's 4, that would really make it a tough conversation if you're talking about best tight end of all time. Whereas if Kittle wins this game, okay, he's got a ring. That bolsters his Hall of Fame case. Maybe he's the 10th best tight end of all time. Maybe he's 7th. I don't know. It's tight end legacy talk we can do from this game almost as much as we can do it for quarterbacks.
I want to get behind you, but this is where I get into legacy stuff, or this is where I get into the low stakes things, or it's just I think it's important to have a head-to-head battle of 2 people at their respective peaks of power at their position, 2 of the best people at their position of this generation, 2 people who will go down as 2 of the top 10 tight ends to play the position, probably when it's all said and done. I'm saying probably in the caveat that Kittle's really good. I don't know if he's top 10. But this is the kind of narrative where it's beyond Mahomes and Reed pushing record books and beyond Kelsey pushing all-time stuff. I can't get fully jazzed up for tight end wars. I see.
That's fine. Don't need you to be jazzed up, but think about 5 years from now when we talk about the number of rings these guys.
No, I think the ring's important for sure. I think the ring's totally important, but I also think in the same capacity that I don't think Kelsey can ever like be in the same conversation as Gronk, like you said, because of the all-around stuff. Because Gronk was just like so physical and so unique, and just like was pushed to the absolute limits of his body, in like a almost like film-esque kind of way, like hobbled in machinery and bandages and
lest we forget they're the same age and Gronk's already been out for
it's
2 years.
Crazy. I was almost going to make a longevity thing for Gronk where I was like, he did it for so long and like sacrificed so much for his body, and that took all the wins out of those sales.
No, for sure. And and like Kelsey, like you said, the numbers are always going to be way bigger for Kelsey because of how many more years he was able to do it for. But you just want to talk like peaks. Like, what can this guy, if you're drafting a football team, like, what can this guy bring to the table? I think that's why Pats fans and probably like the majority of NFL analysts will lean Gronk just because of the do-it-all-ness that he's able to provide.
Yeah. Only other like big narrative stuff I had was I don't really have anything for this Niners defense. Like, I can't picture Fred Warner escalating his reputation beyond best linebacker in the league. Beyond making like, if he shuts down Pacheco in a big highlight way, if he makes some crazy plays in coverage against Kelsey, if he gets a big strip sack on Mahomes a la Dante Hightower against Matt Ryan, like I could see some stuff in that mix that like, add some stuff to an already pretty stellar Hall of Fame resume. Sure. Nick Bosa, similar department. Like Nick Bosa's almost been, I wouldn't say underrated, but like overshadowed by the fact that he's had like such a crazy defensive line. We're in such a golden era of edge rushing talent.
Yeah, he did win a DPOY. We'll give
him that. I get it. But like the fact that he has to compete with TJ Watt and Micah Parsons year in and year out, it's kind of crazy. Like the fact that he couldn't, I know Aaron Donald plays a different position, but the fact that he couldn't have his kind of Aaron Donald era where he's just top of the league, most feared guy. I find that interesting. Like redemption story for Chase Young, hopping on that team to get a win and like maybe upping some of his stock. Like John Hargrave getting over the hump. Like I'm kind of like pulling straws for these, or grasping at straws for these 49ers things. But I genuinely think this, if the Chiefs win and if it's because it's defensive, Brock Purdy is not a – sorry, I have to pause myself. Brock Purdy's not a consistent quarterback. I was going to say Brock Purdy's not a good quarterback. I'm not opening up that can of worms.
I'm going to do that.
Brock Purdy's not a consistent quarterback. He is hyper volatile. It's very good because he is not afraid of taking risks. It's very bad because he sometimes makes bad throws when he takes those risks because he's not a consistent quarterback. Excuse me while I was news.
Please hold.
They passed. Damn it. I didn't want to brace myself and then let it pass. And then it passed. But you get what I'm saying. I don't see – like this is one of the best defenses Steve Spagnuolo's ever had. It's one of the best defenses of the Kansas City Chiefs era. It is fueled by really young talent, George Karlaftis, Trent McDuffie, Leo Chenal. I'd even throw, I don't know ages off the top of my head like that on the defensive side of the ball, but I'd even throw Snead in that young department because I think he's still technically on a rookie deal. He's still definitely on a rookie deal. The last one of that, but he's 26 years old. Like the faces of this defense, non-Chris Jones category, are almost exclusively defense. And they've made some really bold plays in building this defense. Like, oh, we're just going to let Honey Badger walk. We're just going to let Tyrann Mathieu walk. Oh, yeah, no, we've got L'Jarius Sneed waiting in the wings. Like, he's going to eat. We're going to trade back with the Patriots, and we're still going to get a cornerback who completely transforms our room. Yeah, we're gonna like keep taking linebackers, and now we've got now we've got Leo Chenal and Willie Gay and Drew Tranquil and Nick Bolton, and we're crushing right now. The rest of this team is this isn't the normal Chiefs team that we're getting, and I think, excuse me. Also, don't I will not critique you. Jalen Watson's CB3 on this roster. So not total bust to get Jalen Watson.
I'd say he's total bust. Will he make an impact play in this game? Probably not. But like me saying that probably increases the odds of it happening. So
don't be such a doubter. Just believe blindly, like I do.
What if he picks off Brock Purdy? Oh my God, the narratives, Cale. Jalen Watson picked before Brock Purdy, and they were right. You're not ready for that conversation.
You're so good at making narratives.
What about the other guy, Nazeeh Johnson? I don't imagine he'll be picking off Brock Purdy in this game.
No, because he's on IR, Jackson.
Oh, I'm sorry. Didn't mean to bring up wounds.
He's on season-ending IR. No, he's got. He was a big deal. He had 2 picks last playoffs. Not much this. He only has 1 pass defense this year. He was put in a bigger position to play last year, but he started playing 100% of snaps in the Kansas City Cincinnati game. He was hooping. That's crazy.
I didn't know this guy existed, to be honest.
I fully am in the same boat as you. But yeah, this is a really important game to solidify Steve Spagnuolo as one of the more underrated defensive minds, not in the NFL, because I think everyone knows that Steve Spagnuolo is running one of the best defenses at the moment, but just kind of his track record of being the DC for the 07 Giants, being in the room for those really early Eagles teams, and then kind of flaming out in his 1.5 head coaching stint, because he was a Giants interim after he went back to the Giants, and he didn't last long when he went to St. Louis. But like, he's now built, if I've got this count right, 3 Super Bowl defenses between the Eagles, Giants, Ravens, and now Chiefs. That's crazy. I know he didn't build the Giants because he was a young DC and it was his first year there, but that's good stock, and he's got to get some credit for that.
I will give him all the credit. I sort of lost my train of thought because I was like, am I confusing Nazeeh Johnson with Jalen Watson? So that's where my head was at. And you were talking about Jalen Watson having the 2 picks last postseason. So
also,
I can somewhat remember that. Nazeeh Johnson, I don't know if he's actually a real human or just a plant in this case, because I haven't heard a word about him besides the fact that you just told me he's an IR.
I'll Pro Football Reference him. There can't be too many Nazees. I was also wrong.
Tackles.
I was also wrong in the sense that I screwed up my Ravens years, and I think he came right after that. He barely missed that Ravens Niners Super Bowl.
I believe that he missed it. I would not have known. I'd have to look at Spagnuolo's Wikipedia page. I did. He was on Jalen Watson's Wikipedia page. So how could I be on both at once? You know,
he came the year after. He was with the Saints the year before.
Was he with this? He just missed a Saints championship too.
He also just missed a Saints championship. That is.
He's been around greatness, even if he hasn't been winning. He's been in a championship caliber building for 20 years almost. So. We like that for Stevie Spags. I think we've sort of devolved almost into that, time of the show anyway. So we might as well fully dip our toe in matchup keys, where we get a little on the nerdy side of things. I think it's fitting that we pick up on maybe a place we were last week with some of the matchup keys, something that we had already identified as a key. I want to talk ground game. And you mentioned earlier in the show that the Chiefs run defense versus the Niners run offense may be the biggest, statistical advantage either team has here. Niners number 2 in running offense DVOA, Chiefs number 27 in defense. I want to talk about the other side because we watched the Lions gash them being the 49ers last week for over 180, I think it was, rush yards and 2 touchdowns. And now we're bringing in Isaiah Pacheco, who, as we mentioned, is Jersey tough, the best 7th-round running back in the history of the league, and may or may not be able to kind of swing this game. We talked about last week Bosa and Young struggling to set the edges, just kind of being a little overzealous.
You talked
happen again.
I disagree, but
you disagree with Young being overzealous at setting the edge? Because I could have pointed to.
I don't think Young's. I disagree with the Bosa thing, because in reading more, I think the Juwan Taylor matchup is going to be a nightmare for Kansas City, considering the amount of holding calls he's gotten. That deal, God, I want to do a worst contracts thing because that Juwan Taylor 4x80 deal is looking worse and worse by the day. The fact that they've got him on the books for 3 years, I don't know if that thing's like really a 2-year deal or something, but like that was a long-term lock-in, and that's botched.
This is added intrigue. This is exactly not something that I had in my notes, obviously, but something that adds to the intrigue of this side of the matchup. Because we're talking like this is going to be one of the things that dictates the game. If this dude gets 3 holding calls this game, that's going to dictate the impact. Guarantee it.
Yeah. And offensive linemen get more holding calls when they're getting beat. That's just a thing. Like they grab on for last second to your life. Admittedly, Jackson, most of my notes are on one side of this ball, meaning San Francisco D versus Kansas City offense, because that's what I think. San Francisco offense versus Kansas City D, because that's what I think the premier matchup is. I do have stuff on that side of the ball. What is really interesting is that even with Pacheco having success this year, by all numbers, the Kansas City Chiefs run offense has been average to below average in every single game this year. Their only really good game, which you were pointing to as built Ford tough, Jersey strong, the only game that they've had positive like elite running success is against Buffalo, and you and I played linebacker in that game. Like it wasn't really like they didn't have bodies.
It was good.
A huge problem.
I made some tackles.
Yeah, no, listen, we gave it our all. It didn't work how we wanted it to.
Yeah, I left it all out on the ice for sure.
The game contract is huge. Like that is life-changing for you and I. But you got to think think about the Niners offense that I was reading. A lot of my prep for this was Solak and Ruiz base because they're so goddamn good at this whole thing. They were talking about the, for lack of a better word, elasticity of the 49ers offense, where they run some of the most compact sets in the league. 21 personnel, guys on the line of scrimmage, Juszczyk and McCaffrey both in the backfield, Debo and Ayuk both in bunch, Kittle in line, and we'll have like one of the most compact units on the football field. I will pull up the actual mentions about that kind of play calling because I think it's fascinating and I'd like to read it if you don't totally glaze over on it. But it then also allows that same personnel group of Juszczyk, McCaffrey, Kittle, Ayuk, Debo, to then those guys can all also go out into empty and stretch out the entire 53 and a third yards of the field and completely stretch a defense that, for the most part, wants to play cover 2 nickel or cover 2 man under. But like mostly wants to just load the field with defensive backs and have 1 or 2 linebackers left. They run a lot of nickel. They run a lot of dime. It's a matchup nightmare for this team. And I know we were talking about Did I do the thing where I talk about the exact opposite of what you want to talk about?
Well, we're already on that. We're in that vein, and I had a lot of that stuff in there, so we can go there.
We could go back to it. I got on a tangent and I screwed up. I said I needed to talk. I mentioned like 2 things about the thing, and I scrolled up in my notes and I don't have it divided, so I just started talking about San Francisco offense. So let's just start rattling it off then. Kansas City's not going to want to try and take out McCaffrey. I think it gives him too much. Kansas City's really awesome at covering the short parts of the field. And Brock Purdy can throw deeper than Jimmy Garoppolo could. But he's still not like a crazy ADOT guy. And if you succumb to covering McCaffrey and loading box, which, by the way, they have I think this one was from Sumer Sports. They are one of the best teams in the league against heavy boxes. They are 4th in facing and frequency, 3rd in yards per carry against a heavy box at 4.5. Lead the league in EPA per rush against heavy boxes, and lead in success rate against heavy boxes. Like, it just doesn't matter. They have Christian McCaffrey. So that's kind of a lost cause. So what you still kind of want to just do is rely on, like, just not allowing the best team by yards after the catch to completely gash you, and still try and just control the short game and control those short passes while just not letting Christian McCaffrey get too bad. I think if McCaffrey walks away with 100 on the ground and a touchdown, it's a win for Kansas City. I think it's a win for Kansas City.
I like that phrasing of it. Same platform, different people. I was reading Shil Kapadia's Ringer, 25 things that will decide the Super Bowl matchup. And one of them was basically like, how much nickel and dime do the Chiefs run against the Niners 21 and 22 personnel? And like, what does that look like? Because the Niners are the heaviest 21 and 22 personnel team in the league, kind of like you talked about. And the Chiefs just don't really like to change what they do. And they have all these super athletic defensive backs that they like to just kind of throw at you. So like, can they stop the run when they have 5 or 6 DBs on the field? That's just kind of like the personnel grouping matchup that comes down to decide this game on the Niners offensive side of the ball. Yeah,
I'm really interested because there's also this crazy stat. Sumer Sports, for those of you unfamiliar, it's Eric Eager, who used to be one of the heads of data at PFF, who spun off and kind of co-founded his own thing. But it's really, really like niche data rich stuff that is so thorough. This breaks down. I'm on page 5 of this Super Bowl 2024 breakdown. And their pass rush breakdown is just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 bits of information. Like, it's doing offensive performance for usage, EPA, pressure, and sack rate, all on broken up by 3 rushers or less, 4 rushers, 5 rushers, and 6+ rushers, and then doing that for the Chiefs side of the ball. Like, it's so thorough and so good. But back to what I was initially talking about with these pressure stats. Chiefs blitz a lot. Chiefs send 6 or more at one of the highest rates in the league. They drop a good amount back pretty frequently. They'll do some 3-man rushes. They bring a lot of 5-man and they bring a ton of 6-man. Bring 7.5%. Bring 6 or more on 7.5% of your plays is a ton, and they're really good at generating negative EPA off that. They average negative 0.5 point of EPA every time they do that. The Niners are also just elite whenever, they're good at everything, which is kind of the issue. But they're one of the best, they're the best team in the league facing a 5-man rush. They're 4th in the league facing a 6 or more man rush. But on that 6 or more man rush, they average the 10th lowest sack rate in the league at 6.7 and an EPA per play of 0.38. They are crazy against big blitzes. And I just don't know how Spagnuolo is going to handle this because the 49ers have Trent Williams and a bad line. They have Trent Williams, and it averages out to an okay line. And no one has made this. Speaking of PFF, Steve Palazzolo and Sam Monson were talking about this today. No one has made it a big issue for this team. Brock Purdy's pretty good at getting out of he makes mistakes and he gets pressured, but he's not a very heavily sacked quarterback in the totality of this league.
I have the numbers for that if you want them. They're 27th in pressure rate as an offense, but they're only 9th in sack rate allowed, which you can attribute a lot of that to Purdy. And guess what? The Chiefs are 1st in pressure rate as a defense. So maybe this is the team that can finally make them pay.
It is a huge Chris Jones game. Having use check is a bit of a cheat code, especially with the amount of 21 they run. It plays into Kansas City because that is now one person less that they have to worry about, because you'd rather be able to have use check. In some diagrams on the Ringer, they had use check as the X receiver, the X or the Z, regardless, but had him fully split out, strong side. Yeah, fully split out, strong side, the furthest most right receiver. I don't know if that's intentional. I guess you'd rather have Samuel and Ayuk in the slot, but putting McCaffrey I can trust out wide. Fullback use check, I do not know. I don't know if I'm putting the fullback wife guy.
You saw the catch he made last week.
I get it. It works. It's listen.
Patriots.
I'm not going to buy into everything immediately. It takes a little bit from it.
You remember when the Patriots won a Super Bowl with that against the Rams, when they just caught a look on the game-winning drive that if they split James Devlin out wide, he would be covered by basically one of the most key pass rushers and just kind of leave everything in the middle of the field wide open, and they got to play to Devlin on the sideline, and then they ran it again, and they got a catch to Edelman wide open over the middle, and then they got the long ball to Gronk. That was basically the winning play. So fullback wide wins Super Bowls.
That Super Bowl happened in the midst of me not being responsible and covering the league. So kind of not really. But yeah, the offensive line's gonna be an issue. They want to run a lot of small personnel stuff. They might not be able to because of the amount that they will have to cover McCaffrey and these 21 personnel looks. Another thing I just want to throw out, referencing your Capaccia article, they run a lot of man. You know who does really well a lot of man? George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk. Most frequent targets versus man coverage. And kind of interestingly, Debo particularly struggles the most against man. Just found that interesting. They barely target him in the man snaps. But this is just that side of the ball. This is where the action is going to be. I think finding Chris Jones is going to be a legitimate, unique problem there. You've got to be able to account for him. I think it's a big game for Kittle because they their linebackers. I want to check their DVOA against receivers quick, but I just don't see them as if I remember correctly, they're not elite against tight ends.
Well, they have one of the only good ones, which makes it easier for them to not have a defense.
It does. It does. When you don't have Kelsey in the sample size, it becomes a lot easier to fare against. But you know what, Jackson? That's the beauty of DVOA because it is opponent adjusted. But Kansas City is 10th against tight ends. So they do okay. They do very well, actually. I won't say okay. That is disrespectful to them. They do. The top 10 is going to be very well. They do very well against tight ends. So they do very well against tight ends. PFF has outlined one of their big matchups as Deebo Samuel versus Trent McDuffie. McDuffie has had a down sophomore year and a big bounce back against the Ravens. The Deebo Samuel was banged up for portions of this playoffs. And I just said has Deebo, despite being up and down, has forced 0.62 missed tackles per touch. The highest rate by any player with at least 5 touches. That's a crazy stat.
Yeah, if you did a freeze frame on just like some of the balls that Deebo Samuel catches, like let's call it like 5 frames before the catch point where his hands are out and you just kind of see where he's at and where the defense is at. Some of those that turn into touchdowns are just like, what are we doing here, man? He is truly ridiculous. And part of why I say this is because I saw a really dumb, mean-spirited TikTok the other day that was just a video compilation of all of Brock Purdy's touchdowns from this year, and it broke it down like numerically into like good throw, easy throw, and all wide receiver. And I did not support the message of the TikTok of just like, oh, they're all easy throws. I did support the message of, holy crap, how did Deebo turn 5 of these into touchdowns? And he might do that twice in this game. So definitely not like anecdotal at all.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. That's the big, like, Deebo, elite athlete, speed guy. It'll be interesting to see him against McDuffie is taking a bit of not like a bit of a step back. He just had a crazy rookie year. PFF still has him as their highest graded coverage corner when lined up inside, 89.5 PFF coverage grade. Partially a credit to his aggressive and sound approach to tackling, having totaled just 3 missed tackles all season. So good on McDuffie for fundamentals. However, I see this as my preferred matchup is L'Jarius Sneed to Brandon Ayuk, because Brandon Ayuk is such a man-centric ball winner in these cases, and L'Jarius Sneed has blossomed into not just one of the Chiefs' best corner, or not just the best corner on the Chiefs, but one of the better corners in the NFL, period, as a part of this defense. That is going to be one of the most premier matchups on this side of the ball.
Absolutely. And just to even further that, it's like we've seen Sneed kind of have his way, or at least be very competitive in games with other top receivers. And Ayuk's just kind of different than all those guys. You know, he's shut down AJ Brown. He's done really well in 2 games against Stephon Diggs. And it's like
L'Jarius Sneed.
Yeah, it could have no bearing on this Ayuk matchup, because Ayuk is just such a burner and so shifty that like success against other wide receiver ones does not necessarily, like, he doesn't really fit the archetype of any of the other top receivers in my mind right now, because he's not a true burner like a Tyreek, but he's also not like a technician route runner like Jefferson, or a physical ball hawk like AJ Brown. Like, he just kind of like gets shifty, wins in space, and is really fast, just not like Tyreek Hill fast. And he also has really good hands. So he's just kind of like this do-it-all guy that like you don't think of him as having any one elite skill set, but like all combined together, it's more than elite. It's top tier.
Yeah, when you're instead of min-maxing, if you've just got 80% in every stat category, you realize that you have a massive stat pool, and that will eventually bear out. Other side of the ball,
you think too. Not to like harp on Brandon Ayuk, but like he's bigger than you think. He's not like some little skinny guy.
So, yeah, he is not.
Nice.
Did you excuse me, other side of the ball. Now that we are fully exhausted on that end, because of my unintentional pivot. Do you have anything on the other side of the ball beyond Patrick Mahomes is goated with the sauce?
Yeah, so I don't have obviously you could pull lots more analytical background on the other side of the ball, but I just want to know, like, is this a big Rashee Rice game? Is this a big Pacheco game? Or like, does MVS have two big catches? Because I feel like the Niners, the one hill they have to die on in this game, and I know they're already saying it to themselves, is like, okay, Kelsey's not getting 11 catches again for 115 and a touchdown like he did last week. That's not allowed to happen. So who's the explosive guy on the Chiefs gonna be, if any? And I feel like the answer should be Pacheco, even though Rice has been like really good at times this postseason. I sort of feel like this could be a really big Pacheco game.
Yeah, I think it kind of has to be, in so much that it's this isn't a really big the 49ers are not a deep defense outside of their defensive line. The issue for me is like a lot's going to come down to Fred Warner. A lot is going to come down to Rashee Rice, if only because there is no one else. You are not trusting Sky Moore. You are going to get two good plays out of Marquez Valdez-Scantling, and that's it. Because he will have a CB3 matchup, and he will have something will get schemed up to pull the free safety down, and you will get MVS for exactly 2 looks in this game. You will get. That's all you'll get. The rest is going to Kelsey and Rashee Rice, and I think the Niners know that. The Niners are pretty much a man-on-man matchup team, to my understanding. It is Spagnuolo will run a lot of show 3, roll to show to play 2. They'll do a lot of stuff with the safety. They'll do a lot of inversion. Pardon me. But Niners don't do that. Niners are best on best, line up at the point of attack. Let's see how you do. And I think there's good to that, and I think there's bad to that. On the Chiefs side, the bad for that is Rashee Rice is getting CB1 attention. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think Rashee Rice is able to handle it. But it's just going to, he's just going to have a tougher time getting the ball.
Yeah, I think that, and even like last week, this could be like an 8 catches for 42 yards for Rashee Rice type of game. Like they'll want to get him involved in the passing game because they only have 2 guys that do anything in the passing game. But I don't necessarily see him like getting fully off the ground like he did in the Miami game in this one. I think this is going to come down to like how many times can they actually get Kelsey loose and how effective is Pacheco. I feel like those are 2 big keys on that side of the ball. The other one I had was just
I did want to push on Pacheco a little bit more, and just pointing out that he's been solid, not great. He there's nothing he does particularly well, but he is really good. It's the Ayuk thing, except on a lower scale. I should note that in the Ringer scheme write-up that Solak and Ruiz did an excellent job on, the first sentence in 49ers defensive response after waxing poetic about same side runs and 12 personnels and unique run schemes. Benjamin McSolak's response to that write-up was, run defense, schmun defense. Let's watch some cool Fred Warner coverage plays. And then goes in to say, in all seriousness, the 49ers run defense is chalked. It's not going to be great. They give up easy double teams on the run. They give up the opportunity to be misdirected by lack of matchups and lack of visibility on the linebacker level responsible for runs. They highlight a lot of the David Montgomery explosion game, the Jameson Williams breakout touchdown, what Jahmyr Gibbs is able to do, what Trey Greenlaw did not do well in this game. They bring up Jackson's favorite thing. Nick Bosa and Chase Young both crash into the core of the play. There is no commitment from Williams. Get a little overzealous. So Jackson does know ball. Jackson is a film tape grinder. He is a film rat. Known and based. But the one issue that I think could be a saving grace for the 49ers is the lack of Joe Thuney. Huge. If he cannot play the Super Bowl because of this pectoral injury, they then bump up Nick Allegretti. And Nick Allegretti has played almost exclusively special teams for most of his career. In the entirety of his career, he's started 13 games in 5 years. And I would say most of that came in, 694 of those 1,100 offensive snaps came in 2020. And beyond that, he's mostly getting like 20% special team snaps, and he's just a reserve lineman. He has a receiving touchdown to his name, mind you. Should just point that out. That's closed. 3 years old, and it matters. But for me, it is Andy Reid was kind of not posturing, but talking about, hey, if Thuney goes down, we've got Nick in, and Nick, he gets treated like a starter by the guys in the building, and he gets a ton of respect for the work that he puts in. Only allowed 4 pressures against the Ravens, 4 pressures and a sack to Justin Madubuike. With the Niners' depth of pass rusher, though, it is a big deal, especially on passing plays. It is not quite Tampa Bay 2.0, but we know the recipe is being able to get Mahomes pressure while rushing 4. And the Niners are good at that. They have solid pressure numbers when rushing 3 or less, 25.1% when they rush 4 at 15th in the league, and 21.4 when they rush 3 or less, which is 14th. But in the few times that they've rushed 3 or less, it can't be a lot because it's less than 2%. They've got a sack rate of 21.4. I think that's very funny.
Yeah. Who knows what circumstances those might be under? That's a small sample.
But regardless, the big number here is EPA per play allowed when rushing 4 or fewer. When you rush 4, it's 7th best in the league at -0.7 or 0.07. Sorry. 3 or less, that jumps up to more than -0.5, -0.54. I think that is a huge deal. Yeah. I think the fact that, especially when, we've talked about the Juwan Taylor matchup. We've talked about the Thuney injury. And the rest of this offense isn't fantastic. And I've just got to grab the name because there's another guy. I think it's Trey Smith. Donovan Smith is also 41. We can't forget that Donovan Smith is playing. Oh, no, I'm thinking of the wrong guy. I'm sorry. Donovan Smith's the Tampa Bay tackle who's 30 years old. I'm thinking of a guy who, not Dwayne Brown. Am I thinking of Dwayne Brown? I am thinking of Dwayne Brown. Dwayne Brown is 38, who I was thinking of, the Jets guy. But yeah, sorry to tangent and come back, but Juwan Taylor, holding issues. Trey Smith, holding issues. Creed Humphrey, good. Donovan Smith, solid. Nick Allegretti, big question mark. And then they've got 3 down linemen left. Lucas Niang, Wayne Morris, and Mike Caliendo. They've got no depth behind there. And it's a big defensive line. So it's everyone going 100% of plays. It is all gas, no brakes. The trench battle, Kansas City offense, Niners defense is going to spell it, both in the run game and the pass game. This is where this game gets decided, on this side of the ball at least.
Fun fact, the Chiefs don't have anyone over 34 on their roster right now, and they have Blaine Gabbert, Travis Kelce, and this guy Winchester, who's their long snapper. Those are the 34-year-olds. This has to be the youngest Chiefs team in history while we're on the note of age.
Yeah. That used to be my favorite thing about the Packers. That the Packers this year, full tangent, but like it was, I love bringing up age stats, and I do commend you for pulling that one because I think it's important. That at a certain point this year, there are 2 people that have played for them all season, Jackson, all season. I have not counted the offensive line, and Bakhtiari didn't play for them, so it doesn't matter. But on their roster, every skill position player and all but 2 defensive players were under 30. The only 2 people above 30 on the Packers, Preston Smith and Devondre Campbell.
They're going to be good for a long time, man.
Real good for a long time. Full tangent. Shout out Tosh.
Tosh and I talked for a long time about how young this team is. He's very excited. He was talking about how like Dontavian Wicks could be awesome. I was like, all right, dude, like we're talking about
he's spitting.
I'm sure he is spitting. It was like we were so far gone at that point where, like I said, we are gonna do a 15-minute segment in that pod. We're 32 minutes deep, and he's talking like deep Dontavian Wicks stuff, and I was like, all right, we're in for
so much respect. So much. After getting antagonized by him the one time we were on the pod, and just being a constant Twitter thorn.
He's going to antagonize you no matter what, but like he also kind of knows ball. It's the duality of man.
No, he does know ball. Yeah, this game is going to be really interesting. I think we're going to get a good game we've had a couple good games in a row. We haven't had a big blowout in a while, and I don't think the Chiefs are capable of total implosion. No. So even if the Niners win, I think they win close, and I think this is going to be a good game.
Yeah, and funny enough, the last time they maybe fully imploded was the Super Bowl against Tampa. So I guess
even still, you got the most iconic Mahomes highlight of all time,
which
parallel to the ground.
Which I said was the moment of the year on our podcast with Tosh after the game, and he scoffed at me. I was like, if I'm thinking about that game, that's the one play I'm going to remember. It's like they got crushed. Mahomes was still doing like superhuman things, and when he did those superhuman things, his receiver still got hit in the face by the ball and dropped it. So
yeah, no,
I feel vindicated.
I don't remember a single thing that happened in 2020. I played 400 hours of Animal Crossing that year.
That was a year and a half, man. Also the year that got us into this sports media business. So shout out to that. However, I think it's time to talk props. I think we've arrived.
Okay. Jackson, we're going to play a game. We're going to play a fun little game. DraftKings, not sponsored. Could be sponsored, but not sponsored.
Let me just scroll away because I had pulled all my props from FanDuel. Let's asterisk that out, the other one.
Well, Jackson, they have a whole Super Bowl specials page, and one of those sub tabs is called For the Swifties.
Oh no!
And they are. It's not. Listen, Jackson. It is not Taylor Swift. How many times is she gonna be on camera? Is she gonna perform? It is straight up player props themed around
song lyrics and stuff.
No, just song titles.
I
yes.
knew it. Oh
like,
my god.
Anti-hero. Brock Purdy, 250 plus passing yards and 2+ passing touchdowns.
No. Deja
vu. Kansas City wins exactly by 11. I want you. These get. I was looking through these today. These get ridiculous. I want to throw a few out there. And it's not really a game. It's more just we're playing I Spy basically. Like we're just kind of doing a little call and response thing and doing.
I think we should both have to pick one of these. Like
I think we pick 3. I think we could talk through it because I don't want dead air for 30 seconds and I don't want you to have to go back. But I think we get a sense of the board. And we draft the 3 most ridiculous by premise of what has to happen. Because I played around with a few of these today, and I found some of these just utterly fascinating. The domino effect of what would have to happen. And also, I do get 1-1. No, I'll let you get 1-1 because you do this a lot and say that I get 1-1 because it's better. Or because it works better. But I just have one so in mind and have a stat tied to it that I hope you find it first, and I'll give you the stat anyway. But there are some good ones in here.
Is it karma? Travis Kelce, 0 receptions, Niners to win?
Jackson. Travis Kelce's been held to 0 receptions 1 game or 0 receptions 1 game in his entire career.
Yeah.
It is the second game he ever played. He has never gone 0 catches since.
It's not happening. Like
it's not happening.
They give you +3. They give you +3,000. It might as well be 3 million. Like even if it's like the Chiefs are kneeling the ball out, they will like do a forward flip to Kelce for a -2-yard reception to get him his catch in the Super Bowl. That is the least likely prop bet. Like they have one of these on here about an octopus. I even pulled like any player to score an octopus. Yeah, I pulled one from another site about just any player to score an octopus. I kind of like that one, but this is like truly improbable.
So do you want to take karma as your 1-1?
I'm taking karma. Karma is the most ridiculous one by far.
I just want to throw this line out from my article. Travis Kelce's played 180 combined games across the regular season and postseason. He's been held to 0 receptions just once in his in his entire career. The second game of Kelce's rookie career. The Chiefs still won that game. So even
that's never happened. Oh my gosh. Swifties, don't fall for the trap. Just don't do it. We're here to save you. All right. You want to pick one and then we can debate over a third one?
No, we're doing 3 apiece. There's enough of these that are weird.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. Your pick.
My next pick, or my first pick, it's tough because I'm doing it as a juxtaposition pick because it's more ridiculous when you hear the other prop next to it. I'll keep it up for grabs and you can take it if you want, the other one if you want. But wildest dreams. Travis Kelce scores the first and last touchdown at +2,500. It's not weird. It's weird on its own. It's weird on its own that, like, there are first touchdown props. I don't know if there are last touchdown props. I don't really gamble. But it's interesting to kind of have that, like, dual ending, like, bookend it, whatever. But there is a separate prop out here called Love Story, which says that the Chiefs win and Mahomes and Kelce account for all of the Chiefs' touchdowns. I don't know if the specificity of first and second makes it, that much more improbable or specific a series of events. But Love Story is +2,000 and Wildest Dreams is +2,500.
Yeah. What's that?
It doesn't make sense that the the storyline of Travis Kelce and Pat Mahomes taking over the entire game and winning is somehow less probable than Kelce scoring the first one, Pacheco like trickling in a rushing touchdown, and then Kelce scoring again. I don't know.
No, that's totally backwards. And also, you can also just get today was a fairy tale. Kelce to score a TD at any time and the Chiefs to win at plus 240. So we're like 10 timesing it unnecessarily or necessarily if you really feel convicted that he's getting the first and last touchdown.
It's 2.5 times. Okay, you can go. I had to set it up as that. And sorry if I knocked Love Story off the board because that is a very ridiculous premise of Mahomes and Kel. I couldn't find a way to stat head my way into 100% of points belong to this interaction. But here we are.
All right, I'm taking blank space. It is Travis Kelce to score an octopus. The reason I'm taking it is because it's plus 3,000, and like I could sort of see it happening. But I'm also taking it. I'm also taking it because blank space just has nothing to do with Travis Kelce scoring an octopus. Like that's the least sensical name of all of the prop bets by far. Like guarantee you,
the end zone.
Sure, but like I don't know, man. I feel like you could find much more appropriate Taylor Swift song titles.
Why don't you date a Beatle? Name it
Knew You Were Trouble. I don't know. There's got to be a Knew You Were Trouble on here somewhere? No, if not, I'm transferring it the name to that.
Okay. Mine is 2 is better than 1, which is 2 successful 2-point conversions at plus 1,200. Now, this is such a rare occurrence, Jackson. I didn't realize how rare it was ever. There have only been 2 Super Bowls ever with multiple successful 2-point conversions.
I know one of them.
It's the Patriots-Falcons one, and then a failed comeback by the Chargers, funny enough, against the 49ers, I think, in 1995. It's happened once this playoff run when Dallas failed to come back against the Packers. It's incredibly rare. Teams since 2000 have had 2 successful 2-point conversions in the playoffs just 5 times. And there's never – I tried my best to look. My eyes kind of glaze over when I look at big stat head things, sample sizes, and I wanted to make sure that I got it right. And I could triple check again and really make sure. But to my knowledge, that in the 5 instances this has occurred since 2000, one team has been responsible for the double 2-point every time. So you're basically betting on one team to go down a ton and try and mount a comeback and then win, like, I don't know, on top of the improbability that this highly close Super Bowl is that this very close Super Bowl ends up a blowout. That blown out team then is able to win like 2 40% chances. It is
doesn't have to be by the same team.
But that was my whole thing. They've never had the same team do it, or like
never
multiple
had
teams
both
do
teams do it.
Yeah.
I mean, never know. I do agree that's a ridiculous one.
And also just in like very niche Swiftie lore, like why are we doing the John Mayer song? We don't talk John Mayer, guys.
No chance. Now, my last one, I feel like I'm not getting enough juice on. It's the last great American dynasty, Chiefs to win by 22 or more points. It's only plus 1,200, Cale. That's not happening. They're not winning this game by 22. That's just an absurd number. They could be up by 28 with 3 minutes to go and still lose. There's just no way the Chiefs are getting up by 22 plus at any point in this game.
It's very similar to Is It Over Now? Which I think is what yours was plus 1,200 to win by 22 or more.
Mm-hmm.
Probably that with Is It Over Now, which is Chiefs to lead at any point. I think that's lead at any point because it just says Kansas City Chiefs to lead by 14 or more points. That's such an easy parlay if you're insane with your money.
Yeah.
Not that they would ever let you parlay these. Just insane.
You're like, I see your ridiculous parlays, and I want to cook up one of my own involving two of them.
Yeah. I did. There are so many. There's so many good ones.
It's a good game, Cale. Thank you for bringing that to the table.
I've still got one more, and I do want to shout out some honorable mention. I do just they couldn't think. I'm sure there's a song called 7, but naming a prop just 7, winning margin to be exactly 7 is funny to me. The Travis Kelce 87 plus receiving yards. Mine is good. If you're all over our rushing game, the way we've talked about it today, Mastermind might be good for you. 49ers win and
rush. Which is the other dumbest named one. You, based on the name Mastermind, you have absolutely.
Well, no, that's like masterminding a game plan, like that kind of plays. I think it's been pretty evident that this is the weakness of the Kansas City Chiefs defense. I think it's pretty apparent at this point. If you didn't, there's so many about like Travis Kelce scoring all the time. If you want to do, I didn't even realize this in the today was a fairy tale prop, but they also have a separate one called How You Get the Girl, where Travis Kelce scores a touchdown in the first and second half at 9:50. So it's just not the specificity of first and last. It's just doing it at the same time, or doing it in both halves for like slightly easier odds. But I am going to take friendship bracelets. Travis Kelce or Kyle Juszczyk to score the first touchdown.
I should have picked that one.
I think that one's just nice because I just want to look up the first score props because Travis Kelce can't be that low, and Kyle Juszczyk has to be insanely high. Yeah, Travis Kelce's +7. You're getting worse odds. You're getting worse odds by like expanding your range of outcome. Oh, well, yeah, that makes sense. But Travis Kelce's, sorry, I thought about that stupidly. Travis Kelce's +750 to be the first touchdown scorer. And Kyle Juszczyk +4,000. So you're whopping +4,000 into that only gives you an extra -150.
Yeah. Whatever. In a sense, it is better value. So
the same difference. Yeah. It's the same difference between choosing. You could choose for the net difference of Travis Kelce to Travis Kelce and Juszczyk. You can just go Debo to Travis Kelce instead. So that was the game. I'm glad you enjoyed because that was I respect whoever at DraftKings, not whatever intern, because $23 billion are being spent on gambling this year. So this was a serious venture by someone high up at the company who pitched this. But I just like to think about the executive meeting that they had where they had to put together song lyrics to player legal prop bets.
Can I give you two? I got 2 Taylor Swift song titles that I can't believe they didn't use in some way. She has a song that's just called The Great War. How is that not the name of one of these bets? And then Paper Rings. This game is 4 rings. There's got to be some mention of the paper rings somewhere in here.
Yeah, but paper rings is basically like Mickey Mouse rings. Like it's the same thing as paper tiger. Like it's not a real threat. Okay, it's not a real ring. So like you can't say the Niners win. Like would that prop be like the Niners win but the Chiefs gain more yards or something? Like
yeah, or just Brock Purdy to throw for under 200 yards and win Super Bowl MVP.
Yeah, these are all positive. That is the wrinkle, which I think is also part of the meeting. I don't think Swifties are negative.
They are not.
I don't think you can be mean in these bets. I think you have to be nice. Except in the ones that are blatantly like anti-hero. Brock Purdy does well.
Well, look, he is their anti-hero. Should we ground this conversation in ones that we chose, or is that too far gone now at this point?
We can. I did just want to throw out I did too much research into song props, and I did want to mention them. Reba McEntire's over-under for the national anthem
it's really
is floating around 90.5 seconds, Jackson. Just by historic context, every Super Bowl national anthem, on average, 103-second average, 103.5. Since 2000, 115.4. 6 of the last 10 Super Bowls, over 2 minutes. I then looked up the BPM of Reba's 1998 hit album, Reba. 127 BPM. Fast singer. National anthem, traditionally performed, 92 BPM. But if you listen to a 92 BPM metronome, a 92 BPM metronome is a lot faster than you think. And that song still gets pumped out at 74 seconds. So unless you think that Reba is blazing through this and will not milk a second of this moment, take the under. And Vegas probably knows something we don't.
Take the over, you're saying.
No, I'm saying, yeah. Take the over. Like, Vegas probably knows something we don't. And that Reba will likely pump through this. But just historically, 90.5 is breakneck pace. Like, you were almost doing, like, standard, like, ba, 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 ba. Like, you are really hitting all those notes. That, like, I'm not kidding. That was pretty close to 92 BPM. It is a quick song.
Look, the guy's done the research. I don't know what else there is to say. Like, you're not slipping this one past Cale.
Also, just throwing it out there. I did a like 400-word breakdown of Usher halftime appearance props. And I'm so convinced that there will likely be an appearance because opening song listed at minus 100,000.
Minus 100,000? Who leaked?
Pretty much off the board. On Betano. I've never heard of Betano, but it was the only place that would give me first song odds. And FanDuel has taken Ludacris and Little John appearances off the board. Every other option on the board is pretty dumb. Unless you think they're going to bring out Alicia Keys to do My Boo, which is the odds-on favorite right now. And the rest of them are really bad. You're not going to have Post Malone. Post Malone is the second most favorite odds at minus 440. Post Malone put out the song with Usher in 2022. No one knows what that song is. I don't know what that song is. I just know he put a song out with him. He's doing America the Beautiful, which also feels like a weird bit. And I don't feel like that would be such a low impact punch to like set up the logistics of a Super Bowl appearance. And it would just feel so lame to have Post Malone be like, the guy that sang America the Beautiful, everyone, he was already here. No one knows this song, but we're doing it anyway. So that feels like a weird one. There's no upstaging going on. Taylor Swift plus 550, not happening.
No.
You're not letting Usher, you're not doing Secret Taylor performance. I also don't think you're doing a Biebs performance. Bieber was the mentee of Usher. And Usher hops on the One Less Lonely Girl remix. That's a Bieber song now. That's basically upstaging. The rest of these props, I then found out Nicki Minaj plus 270. Usher and Nicki, they might have beef. dating back to 2020. I don't think that's happening. Will.i.am? You think Will.i.am is coming out to do OMG? No shot.
I wouldn't hate it.
No.
That's my favorite one we've heard besides Lil Jon and Ludacris, which obviously should happen. But yeah, I mean,
the Alicia Keys My Boo would be fun. The one that I want to happen, if only because of how funny it would be. Pitbull, Mr. 305, DJ's Got Us Falling in Love. However,
good.
It is made more funny by the fact that when the Super Bowl was in Miami with Ciara and J-Lo, and they bring out Bad Bunny and J Balvin, they do not bring out Pitbull, who has a combined, apparently, like 12 songs between Pitbull, Ciara, and J-Lo. Like so many collabs between the three of them, and is Mr. 305, which is literally Miami, and like lobbied for it, did Super Bowl like promo before, and could not get a bid for the Super Bowl halftime show. And now he's going to come out at minus 114 odds to do 30 seconds of DJ's Got Us Falling in Love. I think that's fun.
Let's run it, Pitbull. There are many.
Okay, now there's real props we can do.
Yeah, many good ones of those. Going back to something that you mentioned early in the show, it was going to be one of my keys to the game, and I decided to just save it for props. Just Kittle big game essentially, and this is I believe this was Aaron Schatz' like sort of best bet prop as well. But I want to piggyback off it. Over 3.5 receptions, over 47.5 receiving yards. Those feel very solid to me. I know he's coming off a game where he only had 2 catches. Don't particularly care. Like the matchup just dictates that this should be a Kittle game. Could still hit the over on receiving yards without hitting the over on receptions, but I like them both. So have at it.
Yeah, I think they have a big game. I think especially if Chiefs play a ton of man, that's going to be pretty impactful. Kittle leads the 49ers in both targets and receptions against man coverage. So I know the Chiefs are good against tight ends, but that'll be a very positive matchup for San Francisco if they get man. That'll be real interesting to see. I like that one a lot. Jackson, I see you do have McCaffrey over at 4.5 receptions. Not to drop you or scoop you. I just wanted to additionally throw on like 5 more. Yeah. I really think Christian McCaffrey minus 210 anytime touchdown. I think really big. I'm all over that. I am all over, like I said, I forget if I said this. Did I say it up top or did I say it off mic? The Christian McCaffrey currently at over 91.5 rushing yards at minus 115. If you then take that, the first half rushing yard totals, it's like 44.5. He could get that first drive. He's really goddamn good. You can play with a lot more parlays and parlays and specials within that. I think is a massive game.
I could not agree more. I have as you mentioned, the over 4.5 receptions. I think that it's like I'm tempted to take like 6.5, like the alternate line, but I don't know. He hasn't had that many games with tons of catches lately. And as you said, they might just do it on the ground, but couldn't see it as more of a lock that they're at least dumping him a few. I still like Pacheco in this game. I'll take the over 67.5 rush yards and the if you could like scheme up a parlay of like 45.5 or 50 and a touchdown and get plus odds on that. I like that too. Because I think he's getting in the paint at some point. He did it last year. He gets it done in goal to go situations. I've been really impressed by like, okay, it's 1st and goal from the 7. Pacheco runs it down to the 2, bangs it in from the 2 on 2nd down. I think he'll be their best weapon in goal to go scenarios because I think that with the limitations of their receiving group and everyone wanting to key in on Kelsey, the run game kind of becomes their best option down there.
I think pound for pound value. I feel like Mahomes would get it regardless, but like I'm talking MVP, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
I like Christian McCaffrey, and I like the positive juice I get, but you can't get above 5-1 at any book. If you really think the run game is going to be impactful this game, go Pacheco, because you can get Pacheco anywhere from 2,800 to 3,500. If you really don't think that that Niners run D, if you think it's run defense, schmun defense, let's run some Fred Warner coverage routes. That's your bet. That's your bet is Pacheco MVP.
I don't hate it at all. I did also have Mahomes MVP plus 135 because I just think that's better value than betting the Chiefs straight up almost. Like he's just in many ways he's a lock to win MVP. But hey, you've thrown a wrench in my plan. You've got me thinking about a way in which he could not win MVP if they win. I just think like, and maybe it's fatigue, but I mean he didn't have great stats the first time they beat the Niners, and he still won MVP. So I could feel it like at a point where he would have to really not do well to not win MVP. Like I don't think Kelsey's like 17-1. I don't think he's getting it unless Mahomes throws like 2 picks and Kelsey has 2 touchdowns. Like I think it's almost a lock that if they win, I still feel he's the MVP.
I want to throw a weird one at you. It's a little off book from the 5 guys we've talked about this entire time. Marquez Valdez-Scantling over 19.5 receiving yards minus 120. Jackson. Marquez Valdez-Scantling is the only guy who can get consistent targets for Pat Mahomes anymore, not named Rashee Rice or Travis Kelce. In the entirety of the career of the playoffs, since he's been a Kansas City Chief, Valdez-Scantling has averaged 18.38 yards per reception. This playoffs, he's averaged 25 a reception. 2 30-plus yard catches in the Buffalo game. Only game he didn't break 20 yards was the Miami game where he only got 6 because it was a blizzard and they threw all their balls to Rashee Rice because he wasn't getting wide receiver 1 coverage or wide receiver 1 treatment. But he's going to you're basically betting, will Marquez Valdez-Scantling catch a pass?
Yeah.
I think he will.
If you want to go real wonky on that, you can get him plus 850 for longest catch of the game, just out of anyone. Like there's a chance he gets like a 45-yarder. I see that as a fairly distinct possibility.
I agree. I don't hate it.
Getting some juice on MVS here. It's a redemption story. We love it. Let's talk one more from me. I just like Brock Purdy to throw a second quarter touchdown. Now the odds are onto this a little bit because he's over plus 200 in the first quarter and it drops to plus 128 in the second quarter. But first quarters of Super Bowl is notoriously low scoring. Brock Purdy has taken a long time to get going in all of the games so far in the postseason. And I just like the second quarter as a time for it because I feel like whether they're down 10-0 or up 10-0 with like the strength of McCaffrey running, they'll like just get him cooking a little bit in the second quarter. So plus odds, I was thinking it would be minus odds because I was like, if there's any quarter where I feel like Purdy's throwing his 1 touchdown this game, it's the second quarter. And obviously he could throw more. So I'll take the plus odds.
I wish there was a way that I could come into this and have already done my research on how I could leverage the Chiefs being really good at short yardage passes and parlaying that into a prop bet. But I don't feel too comfortable taking McCaffrey under 50.5 receiving yards at minus 270. That feels too juiced to me. And would almost rather take the over in the event that he just kind of rolls. I want to do something with Ayuk. I'm looking at his alts right now. And I just, my issue with this is You look at Ayuk, and we've spoken so glowingly of him in this entire sort of run of this just kind of like general podcast of how often we've spoken positively of Ayuk. And now, like, put your cards on the table time. I'm getting very scared of putting legitimate money on him because,
and we're talking big money here.
We're talking.
We're like, personally gambling.
Yeah, no, we're talking like enough to buy Broadway in Monopoly, like that many pieces of paper. Now, like he's had so many big games, like, and against good teams too. Like he put up 113 in the game again that they lost to Baltimore this year. He put up 126 against Seattle or 156 against like a good Tampa Bay, like all pro corner Antoine Winfield Jr. Like, and then his biggest game of the year outside of that Tampa Bay game's Arizona. Like we're not talking about that, but like he hasn't done well in the playoffs, man. Like not this, like this round particularly, and even like his biggest playoff game ever is the Seattle game. And someone had pointed this out where I forget if it was Klassen, I forget who it was on Twitter, but someone was trying not to hate the or they were trying to argue that the drafting or signing Mike McDonald to the Seattle Seahawks head coaching job wasn't just about stopping the Shanahan-McVay offense. And then said, but every time I look at a cool thing that San Francisco did, it is Seahawks film, and they just get cooked. So the best game that Brandon Ayuk has ever had in the playoffs is against the Seahawks, and again, cooking in that game. 3 receptions, 73 yards. These playoffs, Jackson, 3 for 32, 3 for 68. And then 3 for 68 comes on 8 targets.
And don't forget, 51 of those 68 were off the dude's helmet.
Yeah, exactly.
Great play, not necessarily sustainable success, if you will.
So, like, I'd love him to have a breakout game. I'd love to take Brandon Ayuk at over 81.5 plus 210. I'll bring it down to over 70.5. I'll say he still is a good game. I'll say he still surpasses the odds of what he has done this season. I haven't seen anything leaning toward Brandon Ayuk is injured. I haven't heard any whispers that like he is not playing at 100% speed. I haven't heard any like weird film guys be like, I don't know what this Brandon Ayuk matchup is going to be. But I'm long on Brandon Ayuk for this game. I'm high on Brandon Ayuk do well in this game against L'Jarius Sneed and rise to the occasion. I've got him at over 70.5. I'll lock that in plus 130.
I support it. And he's done well, like not kind of like losing the moment, even in these games where he hasn't had a ton of involvement. He has like stepped up and made some big plays on third downs in that Packers game specifically, and then having the huge catch to set up his own touchdown in the Lions game. So, there's something to be said for like being ready for the moment, even if you're not having huge games. And then maybe this is the game where like finally the levee breaks for him. So I support it based on the matchup, and I support it based on the the resilience of Ayuk, or the patience. Water finds its level.
And you know what? 2022 Spagnuolo matchup. 7 for 11, 82.
That's over.
If anything, I'm being conservative.
I heard an over. Folks, we've got to get out of here. Last one shouted out in under 10 seconds. I had the plus 980 any player to record an octopus. I just think that's fun.
Did I have any? Oh, I did want to throw this one out at you, Jackson. The Athletic had this one. Either kicker hits the upright / crossbar on a missed field goal or extra point. The doink bet at plus 400.
That's not enough. Come on. I was going to be behind it, except plus 400 is brutal. I would take just Jake Moody to miss a field goal at some point in the game. at any plus odds. I think there's a good chance of that happening.
I phrased it in the article and said, want to burn money on a ha-ha funny sound effect? Go for it.
Oh, man. I hope that's the sound effect we're playing when we come back to you all next Tuesday. Cale, it's going to be a Super Bowl. I'll tell you that right now. And you know what? You told me you weren't like that fired up for this Super Bowl. I think we've talked ourselves up into being fired up for it. So Godspeed. May we have a pleasurable, enjoying experience.
Godspeed indeed. Listen, do we have final picks? Do you have final picks? Do you have a final score?
Chiefs 24, Niners 22. I like a weird score.
The scoregami odds were like plus 6,000. It was like, do you see those bets? You could bet on whether it was going to be a scoregami. That's interesting.
I love it. I don't see how it could happen because, like, I know we get more scoregamis every year somehow, but like Super Bowl is not the time for like a 48-18. You know?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's been a game. I could almost tell you that for sure. I can't bet against the Chiefs. I really think it's going to be the 49ers. And I really think it's going to be McCaffrey win. And I just know I'm talking myself into a Chiefs win. Like, I just know that, like, I'm going to be wrong. I think the Niners win. Like, I can't even say they win a low scoring romp because I think a low scoring game plays into the Chiefs' favor. I think it's 20. I think it's 27. I think it's 27-24 49ers. And I know it's never round scores in the Super Bowl, but I think it's 27-24 49ers.
Yeah. I feel like I could say, and last year was kind of round, by the way, although the team scored so much that it kind of became not round at the end. But I definitely feel like this is the year we don't get a round number in the Super Bowl. So if I'm confident about anything, it's that it's going to be a weird score. So I like that side of the coin. Even if it's just like maybe Moody misses an extra point, and that's why it's 24-22 instead of 23 or 24-20 at the end. I feel secure in it being wonky.
It's going to be fun, man.
It's going to be fun.
Like, Chiefs are going to win. I'm going to win that ball again.
We don't need to talk about that.
Listen, they don't want the three-peat.
They don't want the three-peat. Last item of the podcast, number one Super Bowl snack / thing that you put on your plate from the spread. It's the wing.
I will eat an entire tray of wings.
I love wings. It's in my top 3 for sure. I'm gonna go with the nachos. I think nachos and Super Bowls have a special place in my heart historically. So if it's available, I'm taking the nacho.
They congeal. It's an issue. I will say.
What kind of crass nachos are you eating? Mine aren't congealing at all. They're made with real cheese.
Yeah, and they get cold and then they congeal. My issue.
They good.
I had a hot take. It's the only time I see it come out every year. Only event that it will ever come out. And I'll never seek it out beyond it. But a 7-layer dip on Super Bowl Sunday hits different. It's so good.
It does. I think 2 years ago, you like bought one from the supermarket and it was still good, if I remember correctly.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, because when you host, that's the only time you're gonna have 7-layer dip is on Super Bowl Sunday. And I'm locking that in for sure.
I thought you were going to throw out the bacon wrapped jalapeno popper as well as something that never comes around except for perhaps on Super Bowl Sunday.
I'm not a glutton. We're not making.
I have a 7-layer dip, not a 19-layer dip, sir. How dare you?
I'm not making epic mealtime videos. Come on.
Not a glutton. I just eat 7-layer dip.
Yeah, it's one chip. There's just a lot of flavors going on.
And always give me like the weird dip as well. Give me like the spinach and artichoke dip. Give me the French onion dip, or give me like even just like the Lay's chips with the ranch dip out of the jar. All
not
those
the ranch, not the ranch dip. It's another like it's like Christmas only comes once a year.
Bean dip?
Just the electric yellow nacho dip. That is 10,000% artificial and is 200 calories a spoonful.
Yeah.
It's more calorically dense than peanut butter somehow, but it's damn good.
All right. Well, stay away from Manhasset, New York this weekend.
That's what I'm telling you. I just stick to wings. Because I just get into various goos and slimes on Super Bowl Sunday.
And in the 11th hour,
any non-Newtonian fluid on my chip is good by me.
I don't even think I can stomach naming the episode Goose and Slime, so I won't do it.
No, you can't, Jackson, because it's a Super Bowl preview. And inside jokes are not SEO.
You're welcome, America. Can't wait for the game. For Cale, I am Jackson. We will see you next Tuesday.
See ya.